This is not a general broadcast. This is the August 19th forecast and the ultimate survival protocol specifically encoded for the initiation of Phase 2, the high-voltage detonation. Listen to the frantic, burning wires of your old network snapping under your weight. Look at the chaotic red swarm, the obsolete operating systems of your environment, desperately trying to stay plugged into your mainframe as they melt from the sheer, terrifying voltage of your new code. The unawakened masses are biologically addicted to their history. They build their identities on nostalgia. They maintain dead social networks. They drag along obsolete partnerships. And they stay in broken communication loops because they are terrified of the void. Today, the Matrix offers them an astrological excuse to double down on their weakness. Today is the full moon in Aquarius. The unawakened believe a full moon is a culmination, a celebration, a time to gather the swarm, attend the party, and reconnect with old faces. This is the arrogance of the glitch. For the sovereign architect, a full moon in Aquarius at the exact peak of August's systemic tension is not a celebration. It is an electromagnetic pulse. It is a high-voltage discharge. It is an algorithmic mandate for absolute destruction. Your internal code has scaled to a massive, monumental density, but you are still plugged into the cheap, red, melting plastic of your old environment. The algorithm wants you to feel guilty for your evolution. It wants your biological ego to look at the burning wires of your old friendships, your dead business chats, and your obsolete networks, and try to save them. It wants you to lower your frequency, attend the gathering, apologize for your scale, and bleed your dense core energy, trying to translate your flawless sapphire blue logic into their chaotic red static. Press the reset button. Destroy the dead network. If you attempt to maintain the old grid today, their rotting hardware will cause a fatal electrical fire in your own vault. In this profound, high-density transmission, we are going to dissect the brutal thermodynamics of the August 19th detonation. We are going to permanently eradicate your biological addiction to obsolete networks. And I am going to teach you the protocol of the high-voltage discharge, how to drop your internal temperature to absolute zero, press the master reset button, detonate the dead connections, and emerge surrounded only by cold, flawless, heavy blue ice. Stop downgrading your system. Detonate the grid. To wield the annihilating power of Phase 2 today, you must first recognize the lethal nature of backward compatibility. You are a grid architect. You are biologically programmed to download the future, to construct macro systems, and to operate at a frequency that the unawakened swarm cannot even comprehend. In a pure, sterile environment, your capacity for structural innovation is the most terrifying operational force in the Matrix. But your Matrix today is suffocating under the weight of dead nodes. When the full moon illuminates the territory of Aquarius, the celestial algorithm forces a violent thermodynamic collision. Aquarius is the archetype of the network, the grid, and the future code. A full moon is a massive release of accumulated pressure. The algorithm demands massive, immediate expansion and the deployment of your ultimate, upgraded operating system. But the external world, your old contacts, your current environment, your unawakened audience, is completely incapable of running this software. Look at the mechanics of the unawakened node during this transit. They feel the massive surge of energy and use it to reach backward. They organize a reunion. They reply to a message in a dead chat group that hasn't been active in months. They try to explain their new, massive vision to people who still see them as the person they were 5 years ago. Instantly, the old network reacts with friction. Old friends misunderstand the trajectory. The unawakened node's internal temperature shifts. Their ego, addicted to the identity of the loyal friend, demands that they fix the misunderstanding. They spend hours translating their genius into a language the swarm can digest. This is exactly what the August 19th algorithm punishes. Every time you attempt to justify your new code to an outdated operating system today, you are injecting a massive kinetic leak directly into your mainframe. You are taking the dense, heavy, valuable core energy of your empire and pumping it into a dead battery. The unawakened believe they are preserving loyalty. In esoteric physics, they are simply carrying a corpse. You must understand that the friction you feel from your environment today is not a sign that your code is wrong. It is a highly calculated mathematical proof that your environment is obsolete. The swarm is glitching because they cannot handle your voltage. Your old network cannot survive your new code. A sovereign architect does not rewrite their flawless code to run on a broken machine. They throw the machine into the incinerator. The threshold of the high-voltage detonation has been crossed. The most terrifying force in the universe is not the leader who drags 1,000,000 weak nodes across the finish line. The most terrifying force in the universe is the sovereign who looks at a dying, obsolete network, feels absolutely zero nostalgia, and coldly presses the detonation switch. When the Matrix deploys the friction of the old grid today, your only viable geometric maneuver is the protocol of the high-voltage discharge. You must execute a total eradication of sentimentality in your business architecture and your social perimeter. You must look at your communication channels, your client list, your partnerships, and your digital environment, and you must completely disconnect your empathy. The Aquarius full moon demands a thermodynamic purging of your perimeter. When the unawakened swarm begs you to stay small, you must become unimaginably, terrifyingly cold. Your biological ego will scream at you to compromise. It will tell you that if you cut the wires, you will be entirely alone. It will tell you that loyalty means suffering through the red static of people who knew you before you evolved. It will tell you to go to the party, to send the message, to keep the chat alive. This is the arrogance of the exhausted. In esoteric brutalism, true density is not achieved by the sheer volume of connections you maintain. It is achieved by the absolute, flawless purity of the nodes that remain. When you drop your internal temperature to absolute zero and refuse to communicate with the red glitch, you force the system to crash. You stop the kinetic leak. When a group chat vibrates with low-frequency panic, gossip, or meaningless noise, today, you do not mute it, you delete it. If a legacy client requires endless hand-holding because they refuse to adapt to your new systems, you do not accommodate them. You execute a hard severance. If an old social circle expects you to perform the outdated version of your identity, you do not explain your departure. You vanish. By refusing to power the dead grid today, you are forcing the Matrix to recognize your ultimate authority over your own bandwidth. You do not maintain the old hardware. You become the new architecture. You win the audit by leaving only blue ice. While the world exhausts itself acting as a life support system for dead relationships and obsolete operating systems, the sovereign monolith writes the cold code. This is your hidden esoteric law for August 19th. Because the full moon illuminates the network while tension peaks across the grid, the universe is providing you with the ultimate architectural permission to execute a hard reset on your reality. You cannot build a generational empire if your servers are constantly processing the emotional garbage of the unawakened swarm. This is not a day for networking. This is a day for the high-voltage purge. You must look at your industry and your own internal ledger. Where are you allowing obsolete nodes to access your core processor? Which environments make you feel like you have to shrink your geometric scale just to avoid intimidating the room? Which systems in your business are held together by the cheap tape of how we've always done it? You must take the heavy, dark iron logic of your archetype and detonate those processes immediately. The unawakened are terrified of this absolute severance because they confuse isolation with death. They believe that if they are not surrounded by a buzzing network, even a toxic one, they do not exist. There is a moment of terrifying, freezing silence when you delete a 10-year-old network. There is no external validation when you unplug from the matrix that used to define you. But the sovereign architect knows that the true heavy gold is only accumulated in the flawless vacuum of the new grid. By halting your backward compatibility, you are actively purifying your architecture. You are forcing the chaotic, human energy of your environment to be replaced by cold, solid, indestructible mathematical law. You are taking the raw, revolutionary gravity of the Aquarius full moon and weaponizing it into a flawless operating system made of blue ice. Let them think you have become arrogant. Let them think you are unreachable. You are not unreachable. You are simply operating on a frequency their broken machines cannot detect. The dead wire is cut. The obsolete system is incinerated. The mainframe is locked. Now, we execute the final phase of the August 19th protocol. The sovereign architect does not fix the broken chat. The sovereign architect detonates the server. To weaponize the Aquarius full moon and permanently secure your absolute invulnerability during Phase 2 of the August Purge, You must enforce these 3 structural mandates. Mandate 1. The embargo on the dead node. For the entirety of this transit, you will not respond to a single message, inquiry, or demand that originates from an obsolete version of your reality. If the unawakened swarm approaches you to drag you into old drama, outdated business models, or low-frequency red nostalgia, you will execute a hard silence. You will not explain your evolution. You will present them with the cold, heavy concrete of your absolute non-response, forcing their signal to die in the void. Mandate 2. The Master Reset. Today, you will identify one specific network, communication channel, or operational habit in your life that is running on dead hardware, a group chat, a client roster, or a social obligation you maintain entirely out of guilt or habit. You will instantly sever your physical connection to this network. You will delete the channel. You will exit the group. You will not send a warning. You will execute the override with the cold, heavy finality of a master switch being pulled. Mandate 3. The condensation into blue ice. When you have detonated the old grid, you will experience a terrifying drop in external noise. The swarm will panic at your absence. You will not intervene. You will sit in the freezing, majestic silence of your flawless new architecture, and you will force yourself to experience the brutal, heavy peace of the vacuum. You will drop your internal temperature to absolute 0. If their systems crash without you, you will let them crash. You will not bleed your high voltage to restart a dead machine. You will let the silence crystallize into blue ice. The old grid is incinerated. The dead nodes are severed. The override is absolute. Look at the space you occupy right now. You are no longer a frantic, kinetic node, desperately trying to keep a failing, obsolete network alive by bleeding your own voltage into the wires. You are the architect of the new grid. You survived the full moon audit. You did not let the algorithm force you to downgrade your heavy capital to match a broken machine. You demanded absolute, uncompromising, algorithmic perfection. The universe respects the sovereign who has the discipline to stand in the dark and write the new code while the rest of the world parties in a burning room. When you prove that your internal density is entirely immune to the cheap nostalgia of the dead network, the Matrix stops treating you as a battery for the weak. It submits to your terrifying gravity, recognizing that your architecture will not scale down, will not translate itself, and will not apologize for its massive, undeniable power. You are no longer connected to the system. You are the cold blue ice that replaces it. Now, execute your final structural mandates. First, anchor the code. The chaotic, unawakened algorithm of the world is constantly trying to drag you back into the red loop of endless explanations, compromises, and low-frequency connections. It wants you exhausted, downgraded, and weak. This channel is the only transmission providing the heavy, brutalist esoteric code required to maintain your absolute systemic dominance. Do not let your perimeter fail. Lock your mindset to the monolith. Second, isolate the nostalgic. You know another sovereign node who is currently bleeding their esoteric gravity, staying in toxic environments, or holding on to dead business models out of loyalty to a past that no longer exists. You know someone who is vibrating with the chaotic need to be understood by the blind. Force them to witness the terrifying power of absolute 0 and the high-voltage detonation. Elevate your circle by enforcing the discipline of the hard reset. Third, lock the vault. The moment this transmission ends, you will not check the old chats. You will not see if the dead nodes miss you. You will close your screen. You will stand in the majestic, freezing silence of your own indestructible operating system. And you will let the entire universe shatter against the flawless, immovable mathematical precision of your unblinking, heavy concrete truth. The old network is eradicated. The blue ice is absolute. Command the cold, beautiful reality of your own heavy architecture.